All right, welcome to Jason Sports. I'm your host, Joe Chap. We're going to be talking to Detroit Pistons basketball because the Detroit Pistons were mentioned in a topic today that I didn't think was possible. To be honest, I never thought this guy would utter the words of the Detroit Pistons in terms of getting this player. Now, the player we're talking about is Kevin Durant. And, Stephen A. Smith, who is a uh, he's very keyed in on basketball. He's a damn good basketball guy. He is very loud. He is absorbent, and he does have opinions. And I like the guy. I think he's very good at what he does, and he's a very um, rich man because he has a great personality and he's really good at being entertaining outside of sports and in sports. He's done a damn good job at both fronts. Now, when you talk about Detroit Pistons and the Kevin Durant, this was his list that he mentioned today. Obviously, the Knicks were at 1 for KD and Giannis, and he had the Rockets at 2 for KD and Giannis. But 3, he had Timberwolves for KD, and 4, he had Giannis, the Mavericks. He had the Pistons at number 4 for KD, and that's where we'll start. Every time Kevin Durant is mentioned in a trade, usually the team that trades for Kevin Durant doesn't get what they bargained for. When you trade for a guy like Kevin Durant, you're expecting to get a guy who could lead you to the next level. And aside from his time with Gold State, because that was, let's be honest, when he was at Gold State, that team was so good. They had, Klay Thompson and Steph Curry and Draymond Green. Like, they could have beat anybody. It wasn't just Kevin Durant. But every time Kevin Durant has gone somewhere, it's either been Oklahoma City, Brooklyn, or Phoenix, it hasn't ended up well. And these teams have given a lot of their capital to get Kevin Durant. Now, there was one trade proposal that I'll read for you, and it was the Pistons would give up, if I'm reading it correctly, they would give up Tobias Harris because he makes $25.3 million. They'd give Ron Holland because he gives us $8.2 million, and they would give up Simone Fontecchio for $7.6 million. Now, this is probably the most dumb one because the Suns are looking to acquire a guy, and Jay Nivey would potentially be that guy. Would I trade Jay Nivey and Ron Holland and Tobias Harris for a guy like Kevin Durant? Absolutely not. I think this trade is a little bit flimsy because obviously it has 2 first-round picks attached to it. And look, I'm all for getting Cade Cunningham the help that he deserves because he is a great player and he does need the help. But at the same time, I feel like when you trade for a guy like Kevin Durant, you expect this guy to be a championship level player. And aside from Golden State, he has not been a championship level player. Everywhere he's gone, whether it be Phoenix, which it wasn't a championship window, they gave up a lot to get him and ended up backfiring on them. You look at the Brooklyn Nets. They thought they had a 2-headed monster with him and Harden and all that jazz. Never worked out. Oklahoma City with Russell and young Harden and Serge Ibaka and all that stuff. They didn't win it either. So it comes to tell you, like, okay, aside from Kevin Durant and Golden State, what has he actually accomplished as a player? And I'm not for trading anything and everything to get Kevin Durant. I want the Pistons to make a move. I want them to be bold this offseason. I want the Red Wings and the Pistons to both be bold this offseason. But don't be stupid. Don't be stupid. Because you have the money doesn't mean that you go out and spend and you go get a Mercedes-Benz or a Beamer. You don't spend the money if you don't have it. And you don't spend the money on stupid stuff that isn't going to benefit you in the long run. So what I look at with the Detroit Pistons is this. I hope the Pistons make a move this offseason. I hope it's not Kevin Durant. Because what Kevin Durant has done throughout his career, he's been a hell of a player. He's an NBA pro. He's an all-NBA guy. He's going to be one of the greats. But when you talk about being a leader, being a part of a championship team, could him and Cade coexist? Hell yes, they could. Is it worth trading a guy like Jaden Ivey and Tobias Harris and all that jazz to get KD? I don't know about that. I love KD. I think KD is a great player, but let's be honest about this. Every place that a team has invested capital in the guy, it has never worked out. A team that invested no capital into KD, Golden State, they did a good job. But Steph Curry and Klay Thompson were on the cusp, and they were just that was one of the best teams that was ever assembled, in my opinion. Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, like that team was fantastic. And I always tell people, when you look back at LeBron's career and see that he had to go bet against a Golden State team like that, it rings hollow. That guy was a hell of a player. He did a damn good job with the going against Golden State, especially those teams that he had to go against. So it leaves me pause because I think that Kevin Durant, I think he would be good for Detroit. But I'm not willing to give up everything and everything to get Kevin Durant. No, Kevin Durant would be good if you were you're one player away. I think the Detroit Pistons they need more depth. I think they need more they need another guy. But what's the difference if you get rid of a guy, you get rid of some of your depth for a guy like Kevin Durant? That's always the issue when you get these guys that are studs. Like I look at OKC and I look at the Pacers. And when I look at the Pacers, they play 13 guys. OKC, the same thing. They have a depth. They have guys that come in and out of the lineup. They do a damn good job. And they built it the right way. So with the Pistons, it's kind of like, do you want to force the hand? Or do you want to be like the Pacers? Do you want to be like the Oklahoma City Thunder? Does Trader Langdon believe that a guy like Jaden Ivey would make this team a whole hell of a lot better? You're still gonna have Malik Beasley and all that jazz, but the Pistons are a damn good team regardless. And I think that paying for Kevin Durant, giving up a guy like Tobias Harris, and giving up a guy like Ron Holland, who I think does have potential, I think that would be detrimental in the long term. So we'll see what happens with the Pistons this offseason, but obviously all eyes are on the Detroit Pistons because even Stephen A. Smith, and if you watch that clip, I was going to play it for you, but I don't want to get a copyright strike from ESPN, but everyone was like, I would love that, Cade and KD. But the issue with me is if you get Cade here, you get KD here, who else goes with them? And then look at the track record of where KD goes and the teams that he gets traded to, and look at what gets traded to the other team. And those teams usually have benefited a little bit more than I got, And I think that if the Phoenix Suns would have kept the players that they had, I think they would be in a much better position than they are right now. So it's an interesting kind of dynamic of, do you want to make a trade? Do you want to make a bold move, or do you want to make a bold move that doesn't end up in nothing? And that's kind of the risk you play. And it's a high stakes poker game. When you make a trade, it's not always, sunshine and rainbows. So we'll see what happens with the Detroit Pistons this offseason, but all eyes are on the Pistons this year, and this is going to be a fun offseason, I think. But if they don't make a move like going to get KD, it's not really a big deal. We'll see what happens with the Pistons, but this is going to be a interesting offseason with all the names that are tied to the Detroit Pistons. So we'll see what happens. I'll keep you posted on the JC Sports YouTube page. Please subscribe, follow along, and like this video. Comment if you disagree with me. I'll comment back. But thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.